Hi everyone, this is Julia with Julia at Home. Today I am talking about how I am planning my garden. So I'm going to be looking down at my notes a little bit here. I just want to share what I've been doing and hopefully I'll have some things that I can show you as I go. So the first thing I did after we moved up here is figure out what USDA zone am I in. So I'm in zone 5A, which it seems like is slightly warmer than 5B. So that makes my last average frost date May 12th and my first average frost date September 29th. So those are my important dates when I'm figuring out what I can grow and when to start indoors and direct sowing and transplanting and all that. So that was the first thing I looked up. Then I spent some time just kind of exploring our space. What is the sun exposure like? We actually get quite a bit of full sun because we're basically in the middle of a bunch of fields. But along with that, we also get a lot of wind. So I've been kind of trying to see like which directions the wind comes from the most. I may look into putting in a windbreak at some point. It seems like a lot of our wind goes south to north. Just happens to be the way it goes. I also watched where water goes. I walked outside a bit in the rain during the summer and fall to kind of try to follow it. And we had a bit of an early spring melt in February. And I watched what happened and what's going to happen hopefully soon as mud season comes and all the snow melts. And that has actually encouraged me to build a stream in our orchard. But I'm going to talk about the orchard in a separate video because, one, I don't want this one to be too long, and two, it was a somewhat separate thought process as I went into designing that. But I did look at water sources and drainage. I am going to test the soil. I meant to do it last fall. Got sick. I didn't get to it. So I'm going to, as soon as the ground thaws, I am going to send in some soil tests. I may not get all the amendments in this year. It's just going to be a first year garden. We're just going to kind of see what happens. And I'm going to try to get some good local compost and mulch and such in. And then over the years, we'll add and try to improve the soil as we go. I can't do everything at once, so I just got to get started. Also at slope, which also affects water drainage, obviously. So the site I chose for our garden is actually relatively flat, and it's in full sun, relatively flat. There's like one corner of it that kind of slopes down a little bit. So I'm keeping that in mind when I figure out what to plant there, and I'll come back to what I'm planting there later. So after figuring all that out, that's kind of step one, like assessing the site, I'm going to call it, and what USDA zone are you in. Step two for me was figuring out what I want to grow. So I created a giant spreadsheet, basically. I have a giant spreadsheet where I just started listing things I wanted to grow, and I had columns for sun or shade, perennial or annual, and like the reason I wanted to grow it. So a lot of things are to eat, medicinal, pollinator, cut flower. I think that's the big categories for me. But that's, it was a very, very long list. I decided to prioritize, like, what am I going to start with growing? And I decided to start with veggies and fruits that we eat most frequently, and some medicinal herbs that I use and want to harvest, and then some flowers. I ended up getting more than I was originally going to, but I think just can't help it. So I got a lot. The list ended up still being pretty long. So after I ended up with some sort of working list of things I wanted to grow, I actually started sketching. I went through so many sketches, like literally took months sketching. I started before I got sick. I continued afterwards because I looked at what I had decided on. So before I got sick in the fall, before that, I had done some sketches. I decided on one. I had friends and my husband helping me. We just put little posts in to mark out the edges and put the raised beds where I thought they were going to go. And then I was sick for a while, and then I came back and looked at it in January and decided to resketch completely. So I'm going to pause here and show you the design that I'm actually going with for our garden right now. Hopefully you can see this okay. This is my sketch for my garden. And There was a couple things I had to consider when I was designing it. The first was we have groundhogs and rabbits, so I did decide to fence it in. So the outside border here is a fence, and I decided that the inside of the fence would be beds. I actually am also going to add some beds, especially in the front on the outside. I ran out of room on the paper here for some flowers and other things. But so but most of my garden is going to be fenced in. I was trying to figure out if I wanted it to have a more formal look, a more meandering look. Do I want to do a market style garden? So it ended up being kind of a mishmash of things a little bit. I mean, it's not really meandering because there's a lot of blocked out areas, but it does have kind of reminiscent of a formal garden. In here, I have, you know, an area with a tree. This is going to be a medicinal herb circle or wheel here. And I have my raised beds mostly back here. And up here, I intended to be kind of more meandering, but I ended up just making blocks because it was easier. This section over here is more of market garden style. And actually, since I haven't updated this, when I've been going in more detail, this is just another big block here of the market garden. I just did some areas. Another thing I had to consider was how wide the paths would be. In this graph paper, every square is 2 square feet. So my main paths are going to be about 4 feet wide. I have some in here that are 2. I do have a garden cart that should, you know, it may actually fit through the 2, but it will definitely fit through the 4. And so I just made sure I had areas where it could go. And if it doesn't fit through the 2 feet areas, especially when a lot of stuff is growing, then I can just kind of park it over here or bring it around this way. You know, so there's different areas that have 4 feet in different areas, a couple that have 2 feet, just so that I was I felt like it was a better use of my space. In the market garden, we'll also have walkways between some of the plantings so that, you know, we can walk through, but I won't be able to pull my cart through there. Also was trying to keep in mind my lawnmower, I believe, is about 19 inches wide. At this point, I'm thinking of leaving grass in the paths and mowing it. That may change this year or in subsequent years. But that is the current plan, just because I'm having to get soil and mulch for all of the beds and everything right now. So I didn't want to have to get something to also put in the pathways. So for the size of the beds, the raised beds we actually found with the house. So those were already there. So they are, I believe, 8 feet by 4 feet and 10 feet by 4 feet. Two of those 10 feet and 4 of them 8 feet. So I kind of worked around that a little bit. I guess use that as a starting point for what the sizing of my other beds are. So a lot of them end up being 8 feet. This is going to be arched trellis here to make kind of a tunnel, and these are 10 feet long. These are not raised beds right now. I might make them into raised beds in the future. Same with some of the other planting areas. They might be made into raised beds in the future. We'll see. The children have their own gardens in here. There's a pea teepee. So I tried to include some fun things. This is a general... My idea with this is a general idea of what I wanted to plant where, but it's not super specific. Okay, so I had assessed the site. I had chosen where my garden's going to be. I have a general sketch of the site, and a general list of things that I want to grow. So the next step for me was to dive into seed catalogs and choose the exact varieties and how many I was going to grow. So I started with Baker Creek, and this is actually the 2018 catalog that I had saved. I kind of just saved them until I get the New Year's one. I just used this one, and then I went online to check for updates if things were still there or not. These are the Brad Atomics grapes on the front, and this is actually one that I'm trying. So I went through Baker Creek. I did a huge order from them. Let's see. I also used high mowing seeds. I get a lot of my medicinal herbs, especially from Strictly Medicinal Seeds. And Prairie Moon Nursery are ones I've gotten in the past. And I like, they have a lot of pollinator plants. They're specific, and it's native seeds and plants. And I really like that. I don't know if they're as popular, especially for gardens. But I did want to include pollinator plants, and also that came in helpful for the orchard, which I will talk about more later. And I should also mention, because I have some trees in my garden plan, that Fedco and Norse Farms were also on the list of places that I purchased from, mostly for the orchard, but I did get a quince tree from Fedco, and elder tree, shrub, bush, an elder plant. I actually got more than one, but one is for the garden, from Norse Farms. So I will link all these places below so you can kind of see where I'm getting things from. So I started a spreadsheet, and I started listing all the things from all the different places I was going to buy. And it was very long and very expensive. So I went through it about 4 times to cut back, to think, how many varieties of tomatoes do I really need? And how many varieties of potatoes or pumpkins? I love pumpkins. I want to grow them to eat them and can them and decorate with them. So anyway, cutting down the pumpkins was a little hard for my soul. But I did it. I did it. I still have 4 different kinds of pumpkin seeds that I got, not lacking in pumpkins. But yeah, so I cut down on that. And then, very excitingly, all my seeds came in. Before I show you my seeds, I'm going to back up a minute. Before I ordered, I actually went through to see what seeds I already have that I brought with me from the last couple years, which mostly ended up being lettuces and herbs and a couple medicinal flowers. So I did go through that first, and I kind of did some research on how long these seeds last, and made some guesses, and ended up, I'm going to use some of those seeds that I already had instead of buying new versions. There was a couple things I did buy more of because I only had a couple seeds, or I bought over again because I thought the seeds were too old and wouldn't germinate. So I could have done a germination test, which is probably what I should have done, but I was running out of time. I wanted to get it all ordered, so I just kind of went with it. I also almost forgot to mention Floret. I have Floret Flowers, the cut flower book, and I'm forgetting the name of the farmer lady who runs it, but oh my goodness, it's so gorgeous. So I did order a couple seed packets from there as well, of beautiful flowers. So I have them stored right now in this Baker Creek bag, as well as in this lidded basket, I guess. This is where I was storing them before, and they didn't fill this all up, but yeah, now I have too many to store in here. So I need new storage solutions. So right now in the basket, I have a whole bunch of these are mainly herbs. So actually some of these, so these are from Johnny Sheepers, because these are some I already had. So you can kind of, I love basil, so I have a bunch of basil. I had some, and then I got some more just in case, because I don't want to not have basil. It's like one of my favorite things. I got cumin is new for me this year. Parsley, catnip. What else is here? Dill, chamomile is one of my favorites as well. So yeah, this is a bundle of herbs. These are my flowers. So a couple are for high mowing. There's some from Floret Flowers in here. I got bachelor's buttons and nasturtium and pansy and love in a puff. I'm so excited about love in a puff. Okay, the 2 I'm probably most excited for right now are love in a puff, just for fun factor. They have, I think, little white flowers, but then they have these little green puffs, which is just so cool. And also the balloon flower. How pretty and cute is that? And those are both vining. So my thought was I could vine them up the fence. Oh, these are more herbs. I think the other one was more culinary herbs, and this is medicinal herbs. So this starts with I got a full gram of chickweed in the front here. Angelica, cleavers, echinacea, vervain, tansy, nettles. So those are medicinal herbs. Some of these are a little tricky to grow from seeds, so we're going to see how those go. And then I put some of these over here. These are mostly my pollinator plants, mostly the ones from Prairie Moon Nursery in here. So I've got Meadow Blazing Star. A couple of them are in the fridge. And these are going to need to get in the to be stratified ASAP right now. I might actually work on that tomorrow if I have time. Okay, then I did set aside most of the seeds that my children want to grow. They're each getting their own little garden plots. So some of these I am growing as well, but I just put in their little thing for right now. So there's like cucumber, dragon's egg cucumber, dragon tongue bean. You can see a dragon bean there. Zinnias. Little man popped in for a minute. Let me go back to showing you. These are just some of the seeds the children are gonna grow. My daughter loves tomatoes, so I'm gonna grow these tomatoes as well, but those are specifically what she wanted. They love lima beans, so they're gonna try to grow lima beans. I might do one or two bushes as well, even though they're not my favorite, but you know, I make them eat things even if they're not their favorite, so that's only fair. A couple more zinnias, Sweet William flowers. And my son, I'm going to grow these. I'm going to start these from seed. These are like the specialty ones, the Brad's Atomic Grape that I mentioned before. So I probably will I'll start the seedlings for these myself and give him one plant. All in here are like vegetables and lettuces and all that. So let's see. There's a package of pumpkins and squashes. So we got the Jack V. Littles in the front here. I am most excited, simple as that, about these ones. Rouge V de Temps. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I don't actually speak French. Apparently, they're an old French heirloom, and they're kind of a reddish color, and the picture just looked gorgeous. And apparently they're good eating as well. So I also have butternut squash in here, and an acorn squash, and spaghetti squash, because those are things that we love to eat. These ones, I believe, are all beans. All beans. I actually really like green beans. I have a couple that are not green in here. These are ones we've grown before. And then most of them are vining, or do you use the term indeterminate for beans as well as tomatoes? I'm just gonna go with vining for right now. I do have one bush bean, and that's not counting in the kids. There's the dragon tongue bean and lima beans as well. So that's, I guess, 3 different kinds of bush beans. But then the rest are climbing or vining beans. Some of them are going to go in the arch. The noodle beans. This one, again, we saw, my daughter and I were watching together, Jess at Roots and Refuge Farm. Homestead? I'm sorry, Roots and Refuge. She's amazing. I will link to her below as well. I have been binge watching her garden tour videos and dreaming of spring. You know, she's in a warmer zone than me, but still, I'll be able to then see her get there before me, and I can just vicariously live spring through her first. But she grew them, and she has these beautiful cattle panel arch trellises over her raised bed. And she grew the long beans on them, and my daughter was like, I need to have those. So I did get the green and the red long beans for us to try. I think those will be super fun hanging in our little tunnel. I also got the black coat runner bean, which I'm going to plant on our bean teepee for the kids. Peas, talking beans and peas. So two of these are ones I had before, and then I'm trying King Tut Purple. A couple cucumbers. Again, the dragon's egg cucumbers are with the kids stuff right now. These are alibi pickling, which I grew in our container garden. I let them get too big. I should have picked them earlier. And Boston pickling. So I want to make pickles, obviously. I didn't get a lot of stuff. We don't eat a lot of summer squash. I kind of want to because I love squashes, but it just doesn't usually happen. But I did get one thing of zucchini. We're trying this squash Nimba zucchini. Again, we don't eat a ton of zucchini, but my thought is we should try it, especially if we're growing our own, because we might like it. If you have zucchini recipes you like, please let me know, because I will be growing some zucchini plants. I'm going to grow 2 or 3 plants, and we're going to see what happens. I also love stuffed squash blossoms, so I'm thinking of using the flowers on some of them. I realize that if I take all the flowers, then I won't get the zucchini, so I won't take all of them. But stuffed with some like ricotta cheese mix and like fried, probably not the healthiest thing, but I had that once in Italy, and it was just amazing. So I kind of have that in mind, honestly, with the zucchini. These are brassicas. So we've got a couple different kinds of cabbage here. I'm planning on making some sauerkraut. what else in here? Brussels sprouts, I think I'm just going to do in the fall. I don't think I'm going to try to do the spring. And then we've got a broccoli and a cauliflower. The broccoli is an older seed packet, so I'm not sure if it's going to germinate, but we're just going to try it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It is what it is. And I might get some different broccoli to try in the fall if that happens. We love cauliflower. I got the Rober cauliflower from Baker Creek. Carrots. So this, I think there's a few other root veggies in here too. I think there is, yeah, there's a rutabaga because I love mashed rutabaga with lots of butter. And what else? Some radish. We're going to try a radish because I know they're just really easy to grow. And so I got a radish to try. I got the day, I don't know how to say 18 in French, but the 18-day one. And leeks. We do enjoy some roasted leeks. So a couple of different kinds of root vegetables in there, but honestly, mostly carrots. I love carrots. I've got, some classic like Danvers in here. But I also have purple dragon and ox heart and amarillo. And I am most excited about the Parisienne. The little round ones. I am so excited to try those. I think the kids want to plant a couple in theirs too. And we got black nebula. So we'll have, the idea is to have like a variety of colors. I got Kyoto red, but I think that works better in the fall, so I might save that for the fall. Just because we're planting so many, I have to figure out the succession and how we're going to do it. But that is a big package of carrots. Let's see. Oh, corn. So excited about the corn. All right, so here's the thing. My daughter loves sweet corn, so I had to get sweet corn. I wanted the glass gem corn because it is gorgeous and decorative, and apparently it makes good popcorn, or I could grind it. So we have two different kinds of corn. We're planting them both in our garden. So I did some research on this. You do not generally want to do that because with pollination, they could ruin the taste of each other, especially the sweet corn could be not as sweet. So the research I did, what I'm doing, instead of separating them by space, because I don't want to have to plant one way out on the other side of the house or something. It's just not going to work for me. I am spacing them out in time. So this one is actually an earlier maturing variety, and this one is a later maturing variety. And I can't remember if it says on here. I had written it down how many days. This is like 100 and something days, and I want to say this is like 60 something, 50 something. So much different. I'm going to plant this one a couple weeks before I plant this one. So I'll plant this one as soon as I can, according to the directions. And I'm going to wait a couple weeks before planting this one. I'm going to time it so it ripens, before it matures before our first frost in the fall. But that's kind of my plan. Because I want this one for the fall anyway, and this one's more summer. So I'm hoping that works. This is my first time growing corn. So yeah, this is one big experiment. You can follow along and see how it goes. These are all lettuces and greens. So there's a bunch of different lettuce mixes in here. And then arugula. I love arugula. I'm wondering if I should have gotten more arugula, but I can always get more later. Bloomsdale spinach. Swiss chard. I also love Swiss chard. I did get 2 of those. I don't know why I got 2 of those and not 2 of arugula, though. Maybe it might have been a mistake. I have scarlet kale in here. I have a blue, what is it? Blue kale. It's like the normal kale. And then I have blue curly kale, I think. I got to the dinosaur kale, which is the Nero di Toscana from Baker Creek. I call it dinosaur kale. It's more fun. Although I do love Italian, so Nero di Toscana. I should like that too. But anyway, kale. Which I like sauteed, or my favorite way to have kale, honestly, is in stews. So I put it in towards the end and let them melt, and it's delicious. So right now I don't have any cold frames or anything. I'm going to put these out as early as I can, but I'm going to be limited in what I can do because, again, it's still frozen here. We're going to need to get some soil in still. The garden centers don't open until about a month before the last frost, so I can't even get the soil in and like in place until then. So yeah, I'm gonna put them in as early as is reasonable this year. I may in the fall or next spring or winter, build myself a cold frame so I can extend the season, especially for things like greens and some carrots and maybe some of the brassicas. This is a good watermelon for northern climates because it's a shorter season watermelon. It's black-tailed mountain watermelon, so we'll see how this goes. And I did mention before, I have one corner of the garden that is slopes down a little bit, so it's a little bit wetter. That's what's going there, the watermelon. So that's my plan. Let me come back to the tomatoes, though. My daughter loves tomatoes. I have been liking them more and more. This pregnancy, one of my favorite snacks, even though it gives me a little bit of heartburn, but pretty much everything does, is just like I chop up some cherry tomatoes with some chunks of fresh mozzarella, the kind you get packed in water. If I only had basil, and you put a little, and I always put a little olive oil over it. Sometimes I also sprinkle a little balsamic vinegar on it. But if I had basil, it'd be the most amazing caprese salad in the world, and it is just my thing right now. And mozzarella's a little expensive, but it's one of those like pregnancy cravings. But I'm hoping if I grow my own tomatoes and basil, and then I still have to buy the mozzarella at some point. Although we could try making it from the milk we buy, so we might try that too. I just have dreams of that this summer. I think it'll be just, the fresh tomatoes are so much better than the stuff I'm buying in the store right now too. So we grew a couple tomato plants in containers in Maryland on our deck. You can actually, I will link to my deck container garden here, and you can see, I'm not sure if they were all there at the time, but we grew some, and none of the tomatoes made it inside. I mean, my daughter would eat them all immediately. So I do want to plant a bunch, and they're great for salads, and I want to try making sauce, so many different things. So this is the one determinate variety. I got Mini Bell because they're just so cute. Look at that, so pretty. And I thought they could actually work really well also in cut floral arrangements. Like, look at the kind of like a viney traily thing. Anyway, so Mini Bell. I got, apparently I'm showing you all the tomatoes. I got Sunrise Bumblebee. We really like cherry tomatoes. I got Costoluto Genovese, and my thought is this could be a good slicing tomato, like on burgers or just plain, as my children will just bite into a tomato. Dr. White Cheese or Witchies, I don't know how to say it. This is one of Jess at Roots and Refuge, one of her favorites, and so she was doing a garden tour and showed them, and I was like, oh, I really want to try that. That sounds really good. So that one. I got Betalox specifically so that to make sauce with, and then the Chadwick cherry. My daughter actually picked up both these, but I figured this would be good for sauce. And Chadwick cherry is like a basic red cherry tomato. I had more tomatoes on my list. Oh, and the Brad's Atomic are also back here, which are also a kind of fun cherry tomato. I had a lot more on my list, but I decided I should cut down. I did get a couple gifts as gifts. So I got a tomato black vernissage and purple Russian tomato. So I will also plant some of those and see how they turn out. Also in this tomato thing is actually apparently my peppers. So we are not a spicy family. I do okay with spice. It's just, I'm fine with it. But my kids and my husband are not. My husband does not like spice. So I was thinking about growing one plant of cayenne peppers so that I could make paprika. I'm pretty sure you do something, I would learn, to the cayenne to make paprika, which I thought would be cool, but I decided I can wait for that. But we do like sweet peppers. So I decided to get King of the North, to do red, and then I think if you pick them unripe, you get green. And then it's a lilac bell pepper. This is like my favorite color. So I couldn't resist. So those are the two bell peppers that I got. Those are all the seeds. Of course, this is not including plants that are coming in later, such as the trees and blueberry bushes. Well, the blueberries for the orchard, but for our garden, this doesn't include the quince tree and the elder bush that are going to be going in, and then bare rooted strawberries that are also going to go in there as well. Okay, so once I had all the seeds in, there were kind of two things I needed to do. One is I needed to figure out more in detail where things are going in the garden, so I know how much room I have for each kind of plant. So I know, for example, how many tomato plants I plan on putting in the ground so that I can have a goal when I'm starting seeds. So I'm gonna again show you kind of what I've been doing. It's still a work in progress. So hopefully you can see this. This again is the large plant here. This is just this left side here, which again you can kind of see this turned into a big just square instead of a raised bed and another bed. But so some things did change from this to my more detailed. I ended up taping two together here. So I'm actually, next year I want to plant asparagus, but I know they want really nice soil and it's a perennial, and so I want that to be really good for them. So I decided to just take this year to plant a cover crop in there to try to improve the soil, and then next year I will invest in some asparagus crowns. So that's what that is. This is again the market garden side. So you'll see I kind of have rows in here. I've got a block of the sweet corn. I was thinking about doing Three Sisters, but I have a Three Sisters bed with the other corn elsewhere, so I'm trying just different things, but I might still grow some beans up the side here. This is south here, so the sun is going to be coming mainly from this way. So here we've got bush beans, which hopefully will be succession planted, pumpkins, corn, spaghetti squash, tomatoes, possibly with some flowers in here, depending on space to walk and plant. Peppers along the side here. They can grow up the fence, as well as some tomato plants down here. I just really like the idea of walking through the path and having tomato plants on either side. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to trellis and tie them, so that's to be determined. So I'm going to have tomatoes here, and then I'm going to plant herbs and flowers around because I just really like that look. We got rows of cauliflower and maybe bush beans here, but I might change that if I have them up there. Cauliflower, broccoli, calendula, and then I'm going to do peas here with the idea of putting Brussels sprouts in the fall. And then I have on the side, so here's the fence here. So on the inside of the fence here, I've got herbs, a space for a bench, some pretty flowers, more tomatoes, possibly peas, and then pretty flowers in the front as well. I'm going to try to move a little faster. I might not go into as much detail in all of these because it's quite a big garden and quite a lot going on. So this is the very front. On here, this is these beds here, as well as the, well, it was going to be a pea teepee. Now it's a bean teepee. Here, so again, I'm going to do the runner beans there. I might do some herbs around the side. I want to do some sort of soft, I might do like chamomile and yarrow plantings inside, because those are really soft for the kids to sit on and play in. I might sit in there too. I've got things like kales with radishes, lots of pollinator plants and flowers when you, like, along the sides. I just think it's really pretty to be walking along the path. And have that, herbs over here. These are the kids' gardens, so my daughters and my sons. I wanted them to be near the bean teepee, so it kind of be a fun, like, kids area in here. There are beds here. They're just on another page. In here, I've got some, let's see, the pumpkins that I'm really excited about, the rouge kind, spinach, dinosaur kale. I haven't decided what's going in here yet. So there's room to change and add and such. I've got some greens going on in here mixed in with some herbs, watermelon over here, and ideas of what can be planted on the outside as far as flowers and a few things up the fence trellis. Fence/trellis. Okay, so this is the next section. Yep, so that's kind of the area here that I was missing before. This is the quince tree, and here, and also these beds here and this side over here. So that's what you're seeing in more detail in this section. I'm going to try to do, probably not all of these, but some herbs and such around the quince tree. Here I've got butternut squash, Howden pumpkins, which are I'm growing specifically for cutting, as well as They're just a general, like, basic pumpkin of what you would like imagine picking up. Chard with sweet alyssum, and some culinary herbs here. These are going to be pollinator plants, and I didn't like specifically lay them out in there. Zucchini here, with some sunflowers, maybe the shorter kind, and probably the shorter kind that I got, and some cucumbers here. Cucumbers, broccoli, and cauliflower, with herbs in between, and then over here, some nasturtiums and sunflowers, the little pumpkins growing up the trellis, and some marigold. Let's see, this section actually goes like this. This is the section here that is, it's kind of my herb section here, and then some of the root veggies. So this is still very much in progress for me. I'm thinking of trying to do an herb spiral here. I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough materials to do that this year. We'll see how it goes. Medicinal herb wheel in the middle. This is pollinators, which you actually saw. I drew it in another detail section as well. I'm thinking of making this kind of like a magic fairy herb garden. So our herbs from herb fairies, but also including some that might have been mentioned in magical things like A Midsummer Night's Dream. I thought that could be fun. And then I'm still figuring out what medicinal herbs are going to go in here, and I know they're not all going to fit. So this is going to be kind of my more medicinal herbs in here. Let's see if I can make this clearer. So these are actually raised beds. They're not super high, but I figured I would do root veggies in them because it would at least give them a little bit more room for the roots to grow. So these three are all different kinds of carrots, which I will do succession planting, and then cabbage up here. Back here I haven't fully planned out yet, so that's another blank space, but I kind of want to do a bench here. I am debating doing like a bench and a table kind of thing. We'll see how it goes. Moving on to, this is the last detail section. This is the equivalent over here where we've got the archway, a couple more raised beds, and this corner over here, which I'm calling my elderberry edge or corner. So this is elder plant over here. Strawberries with borage. I have an old kind of falling apart outdoor table that I'm just thinking of putting here, at least for this year. That'll give me a surface to sit, to put things down on and such. My tall sunflowers over here. Again, this is the north side of the garden. So that's a good place for me to put my tall sunflowers. They won't be blocking other things. These are the big raised beds. This one I'm planning on putting potatoes. I just got one variety of potatoes this year. We'll see how it goes. I don't have them yet. Rutabaga, radish, and leeks. And then, again, I haven't fully planned up here. I want to do some companion herbs. Let's see if I can get it to focus again. Under the elder, so things like valerian, maybe some ostrich fern. I don't actually have seeds for ostrich fern though, so probably not this year, but maybe in the future. Just making some notes. Then we have here, come on, focus. This is going to be, again, arched over, and I'm thinking of using the cattle panel method with some T-posts. But I might end up using, I would like to use that because it seems really sturdy, but we'll have to see what I can find and for what price. But so I want to do the King Tut peas here, the noodle beans, red and green here, and then I'm thinking of doing the Jack B. Little pumpkins up here. I think that would be really fun if it works. Hopefully they're not too heavy, and hopefully it climbs high enough for that to make a good impact. They are going to be some things that are ripening at different times of year, though. So I'm going to try it this year. Next year, maybe I'll make it so they all kind of mature and ripen around the same time. I don't know if that's good or bad. So I'll keep you apprised as to how that one works out. One last thing in my garden planning that I've been working on. I mentioned that I had to do two big things once all the seeds came in. So the first was to do that detailed planning. The other big thing that I need to do once they came in is figure out what needs to be started indoors, what needs to be direct sown, when those things need to happen. And in addition to that, what needs to be cold stratified. And those I probably should have started sooner, to be honest. And next year I probably would do a couple things differently. But I think every gardener can probably say that every year. So, and it's my first year. So there's going to be a lot of things that I'm probably going to want to do differently in the future. Okay. So I went on again. I had this large Excel spreadsheet and I went through all the seed packets and what they said. Sometimes I looked online because the seed packets weren't very specific or they had conflicting information. So I tried to figure out for each of the all the seeds that I have, whether they need to be started indoors or direct sown and when. And of course, a lot of them have the option of either. In the past, I haven't really started seeds inside. I've tried starting a few herbs, but I just didn't have the setup for it. So the part of why I needed to get this done was because I needed to figure out how many seeds I need to start inside and how much space I need for them. So I have a shelf that's in my workroom in my basement that's set aside for starting seeds. And I ended up ordering some lights. And so I'm setting, and I ended up ordering some trays and everything too. So I am setting up a system down there. That'll be a separate video. Basically, after I did this whole spreadsheet, I ended up rewriting, kind of condensing into a couple of sheets of notes. My goal was to try to direct sow everything that I could, but we do have a rather short season here in Zone 5A. So I just, there are things that have to be started indoors. So that's just how it is. So I kind of have this list here. I won't go through all of it. This is getting really super long. But just of when generally I need to start things, including notes on cold stratifying, and when things need to be direct sown, and when the stuff that's started inside needs to be transplanted with the knowledge that it needs 1 or 2 weeks to harden off outside, to ease the transition to the outside, and when all that has to happen. So I'm trying to keep myself organized. There's still some work for me to do with that. I figured out, how many weeks, like what the date was. For example, this coming week, next week, I'll be starting some seeds because we will be at 10 weeks before our last frost date. So some things I plan on starting are peppers, some of the flowers. So I'm going to start a couple things, and I'm definitely going to get some seeds in the fridge to start the moist cold stratification. So I ordered a bunch of supplies. When they're all in, I will take you guys along with me in a garden orchard vlog and go through all those. And I might do a separate video just showing you how I set up my indoor grow station. I'm not an expert. This is my first time doing this, so I don't really want to make a how-to video at this point. This is just like a come along with me as I learn and probably mess up several times and experiment, but hopefully it'll be somewhat enjoyable. So that is where I am in my planning. I am just waiting for the soil to warm up, and I'm waiting to get all my supplies to start my seeds indoors. I will do a separate video talking more in detail about the orchard because while there are some similarities, I'm doing things in tandem. For example, some of these seeds are going in the orchard as well. There are some differences, so I want to go into the orchard specifically in more detail separately. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. If you like this, please click the thumbs up button below, and please subscribe so you don't miss more videos. Garden season is coming, so there will be more gardening videos. This is what you're interested in. Also subscribe for homeschooling and pregnancy and baby updates. I'll talk to you later.